right?
I'm not even going to do it this time.
I was doing a little stretch, you know?
Yeah, get the fuck out of here and doing a stretch.
Wow. Oh, God.
I just was getting ready for it now, and I'm like not even going to yell at you. I'm just sort of like, well, you know.
It's so nice.
This is part of the transition.
It's just the reactions really get it out of me.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways. I think we kept saying through this reaction how great the animation was, but that's kind of what stood out to me.
Yeah.
Is like how beautiful this movie looks, but also like the action is so I don't know what smart word to say, but it like is so impactful. Like the set pieces are really well designed. And it's interesting though because this movie came out like around 2008-ish, right?
I think 2009, but yeah, around that time.
So this was when like 2008 was when the first Iron Man came out. So superhero movies had come out before then, but this was around the time when superhero movies were just starting to like get there. It was about to begin.
It was the dawn of the MCU.
Yeah, and so I bet when this movie came out, because this movie is so meta about a lot of the superhero tropes, I bet when this movie came out in theaters, it was extra funny just because they were calling out on all the jokes.
Yeah.
But now it's just like we've gone through like over a decade worth of superhero movies. So now,
all of which have jokes too.
All of which have jokes. So that part didn't stand out to me as much, but I can only imagine what it must have been like for them to just call out everything and people to be like, you know?
Yeah. And it definitely, I like what you said, and I didn't process it till later of how you said his name was Hal Stewart. Too, that they morphed together Hal Jordan and John Stewart's names.
Yeah.
That was a good catch, and I didn't catch it until like 10 seconds after you said it.
It's one of those things that like when this movie came out, I bet it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Now it would have been like now it's kind of expected for people to do that especially like post Deadpool.
Yeah. I know. I feel like movies should be measured in Deadpool. Like, you know, BD, you know, like 27 BD, 27 years before Deadpool came out and changed the way we made movies.
I know. And I mean, like, it wasn't even just Deadpool. It was just like MCU in general just started like becoming very meta about themselves, right? And I don't want to get into that whole conversation.
Totally.
It's just interesting that this movie's like an artifact and the whole thing is to comment on all the tropes. Like it's basically doing at the beginning of it a Superman thing. Right?
Yeah. He has that origin. It reminded me, I mean, I know this movie came after Megamind, but I feel like Wreck-It Ralph was kind of like a spiritual sibling to it.
Well, it's subverting like what you usually see in these type of stories.
Yeah, and it has like kind of a, an interestingly complex protagonist for a kid's movie. You know what I mean? Someone who clearly lies and does he's a villain and kidnaps and destroys things, yada yada. But you could see that, like anyone, people do bad things, but also, can be positively influenced to be better.
Yeah, and something, it is surprising because like something that this movie reckons with is that for a decent chunk of the movie, you have to deal with the fact that Megamind. You have to deal with the fact that Megamind just killed Metro Man.
Yeah, and that's like the setup to the plot.
Like, I'm just imagining kids watching that being like, oh, like, and for a majority of the movie you think that. Now, he ends up being alive and that's kind of what makes it okay. But it's like, okay, now the movie's going to reckon with that. He has to deal with that. And he has to understand his contradictions and kind of grow as a person. So I just thought that was like, a kind of ballsy to go for that.
It was surprisingly like a pretty strong way to go for it.
Yeah, and just like this movie's such a joy. It's so much fun.
I know, it's so funny. Like the jokes hold up so well too.
Yeah, really well.
Jonah Hill's awesome in it.
Well, yeah, they have it stacked with great comedic performances. Like you get Tina Fey, Jonah Hill, David Cross, Will Ferrell, right? And then outside of that, you just have a cool cast. Like you have
J.K. Simmons.
You have Ben Stiller. You have Brad Pitt,
I know. I was like so giddy waiting. I was like wondering if you would discover that it's Brad Pitt.
You said it was a really good looking man. So I started thinking of like Chris Evans was the first thing that I went to. In my mind, there would have been no way it would have been Brad Pitt. Yeah. I was like, there's no way they just got Brad Pitt.
I know. I didn't know how to make it too obvious for you. Because if you couldn't... Because he had that drawl in his voice that Brad Pitt has. And if you didn't catch it, then you wouldn't catch it the whole way through,
Yeah, I know. It's just wild to think about him doing it. Also, like, when I saw, like, what's Jonah Hill's character? Hal.
Yeah.
Hal turn into the superhero. You get the superhero body.
Yeah.
I thought of Captain America, like First Avenger, right? When he first turns into, like, Chris Evans buff.
Yeah.
Chris Evans has had the only body I know that actually looks like a cartoonish superhero
Like,
body.
he looks like a G.I. Joe action figure or something like that. It's ridiculous how buff he got for the first Captain America
Especially
movie.
the Dorito shape thing that people talk about. Like, in this one, you see the proportions and you kind of laugh, but Chris Evans kind of has that body.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not far off at all from how Chris Evans was. I know.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he doesn't have to go through that, like, regimen anymore.
I know, right? Good for him. I know. Let the guy unwind. But I think also what was cool about Titan, that character, was, like, he is kind of a weird, like, funhouse reflection of Megamind, too, because he was so needy and emotionally volatile.
Yeah.
And he dealt with the same thing. He desperately wanted affection and respect and attention.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way Megamind does, and he also acts out in his own way. And so Megamind probably would have done the same thing if he was given those types of powers. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And because I thought the story was going to go somewhere different. I thought it was like, okay, we're going to see this Hal become a superhero, and like Megamind, his arc is going to be helping this guy out. You know what I mean? And which is, obviously kind of dumb of me, because I was like realizing that this guy's basically an incel and thinks he's so entitled.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this scene with Tina Fey when he like goes and carries her around, so this must be exciting for you. What? I saved you. You don't like me?
Yeah, and he's like flicking her around. Another thing I wanted to point out about this movie is that there's just so much energy in the animation from like the first frame that you don't even notice the time go by. Like, it was kind of absurd how fast paced this was.
Yeah, there was so much love put into it. Like, it felt like the people who made it were so enthusiastic about superhero and comic book movies and wanted to put their own spin on it in like an original and funny way.
Well, Wreck-It Ralph is a great example, right? It's just like, okay, true fans of the genre making something with love, but also subverting expectations. Yeah. I do think like Wreck-It Ralph is just a better written movie. It actually has more complex things going on there. But Megamind's dealing with the same stuff, but it's coming with the same love.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the first to do that, in my opinion, is Shrek, too. What it does with the fantasy genre, like that Princess Bride type of aesthetic.
The opening shot that you and I always talk about, aside, the all-star stuff we know.
Yeah.
But like the actual opening shot of him, the fantasy book opened up, him ripping the page and wiping his ass. Yeah. Which is such a great like visual metaphor of what's going on.
Well, especially in an era of Toy Story, too. And, the Renaissance Disney movies.
But yeah, I was about to say, growing up with the Disney Renaissance movies.
Yeah, and this one was like the first to have like potty humor.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Shrek is remembered for the memes. Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life obviously is a big part of that. But I think like, I don't know if people forget, but like the first Shrek is a remarkably good movie.
Yeah, no, it's an actual... like a fantastic movie with an emotional arc and an interesting main character.
I don't want to be the old man yelling at lawn. I do think the internet kind of ruined the experience of watching that movie, because now when I watch it, I can't stop thinking about the memes.
Yeah, I get that. I think like it's at least those memes are done by the people who grew up and loved Shrek. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so at least it still kind of feels like ours.
Totally. And the people still have a lot of respect for the movies. Like, I think Shrek 2 is considered like one of the great sequels out there.
Yeah. I love Shrek 2.
So this is DreamWorks. DreamWorks has produced what are some other ones? They've done Shrek. They've done Kung Fu Panda.
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon.
Those movies are awesome.
Sorry
we can't react to those ones, guys. We've already seen them.
Have you seen all three?
I don't think I ever saw the third one. I saw the first two.
I haven't seen the third one either. It makes me think, because we're doing commentaries on our Patreon now.
That'd be a fun one to do, yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon would be a really fun series.
Or just a DreamWorks collection or something like that.
DreamWorks classics. That'd be good. But DreamWorks has a pretty good track record,
Yeah, DreamWorks makes very solid movies. Not
of animated
all of them.
movies. Animated movies.
Yeah, just to be clear, DreamWorks animation has solid movies. But this is one of those movies that, like you already said, but I'm amazed they didn't make a sequel to. Well, at least until now, but like for this long without like a proper budget.
That's always been the thing, right? It's always been like, why isn't there more Megamind movies? I mean, part of it's kind of nice too to have this kind of artifact. I do think a Megamind movie now would be... I don't know. I just don't think it would work that well because, like, we're it's post Deadpool.
Yeah, we're kind of burnt out of superheroes.
Especially, like, calling out superhero tropes. Even that's kind of getting burnt out because of Deadpool now. So I'm just like, I think we're good. And also, it's just sometimes it's just nice having, like, this one movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Not everything needs a sequel. We can just appreciate the one thing for what it is.
But I get the frustration of people of, like, okay, after almost a decade later, you come out with a new movie, put it straight to Peacock without the original cast.
Yeah.
I understand people's frustration with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't want to have a full-on, like, prejudged take on it.
I'm not judging the movie, but I understand the frustration of, like, treating it like it's some streaming movie without even putting it in theaters. Like, if they put it in theaters, you don't think, like, kids and just also people of our generation would just go and see it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's, like, millions of people would go see a Deadpool sequel, a Megamind sequel.
Yeah, like, I'm not even judging the movie. I'm just judging the way they even treated the presentation of it.
That's really what it is. Yeah, because I haven't heard anything good about the new movie at all. You know, everyone's been dunking on it really hard, but still, it's kind of just a bummer.
Yeah.
Did you hear recently? I want to say it was Kevin Feige that said he doesn't think superhero burnout's a thing.
No, it wasn't Kevin Feige.
Who was it?
It was Bob Iger.
Bob Iger. Sorry, the other one.
Yeah, he's the guy that runs Disney.
Yeah, sorry, the bigger one.
Like, not the other one. The guy that, like, runs, like, Hollywood. Like,
I know, Mr. Hollywood.
Literally.
Like, you know, Bill Hader's bit in the roast of James.
Yeah, the red tracksuit.
The president of Hollywood.
One of the great, like, that's probably my favorite roast. The roast of James Franco.
That's a solid one.
Yeah, it's the best one. Anyways, I read about that. I mean, that's what he's gonna say. He's putting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in these movies.
Yeah,
so he's like, we can just make a good movie and people will come and see. They asked him, what do you think about Deadpool and Wolverine? And he was like, I think it's the best thing we've put out.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to say that because you put a lot of money into it.
I know.
Like, what? Like, people are just like, Bob Iger said it's good. I'm like, is he going to say it's bad?
When there's so much money on the line?
Kevin Feige says there's some good movies, so don't you guys... What the fuck are you talking about? Of course he's saying that.
Like, but, you know, what do you think? Well, because I know he used Oppenheimer as, like, the comparison, where he said, like, you know, well, just think of Oppenheimer. If people want a good movie, or if there's a good movie, people will just come out and see it. Oppenheimer's a huge success. Yeah. And I'm like... Yeah, but do you think...
He's right.
No, exactly. But I'm here like, do you think people went and saw it also because it wasn't a superhero movie with a huge budget that was, like, made on a grand scale?
Well, that's a part of it. Another part of it is the Barbenheimer anomaly.
Of course.
Another part of it is it would have made money, but not that much money if it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It would have, like, maybe crossed 100 million because it's Nolan and the Barbenheimer phenomenon, but people wouldn't have come to see it again. The reason... it made close to $1 billion was not just because, like, of the Barbenheimer stuff, was because people were coming back to see it a second and third time.
Yeah.
You and I both saw it twice. I saw it twice in IMAX. You know, it's just like, it's so... I think that part is like, yeah, no.
Because it was a good movie.
It was a good movie. People went out and see it. I think Bob Iger's actually kind of right in that.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just funny. I'm like, yeah, that's what he's going to say.
I know.
But superhero burnout does exist at the same time. But he's not going to be the one to say that.
Yeah, why would he say that, right? Like,
that's the thing I don't understand. People are like, Bob Iger said it's not burnout. And I'm just like, no shit, he's putting so much money into these movies.
I couldn't remember. I thought it was Kevin Feige said, which would make even less sense. But Bob Iger is also just as much of, like...
He's the one funding this shit, you know? Like, so it's it's just really funny to me. But I mean, both things are true. One is that superhero burnout does exist.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. That's not even my opinion. It's like, yeah, people are just, like, less interested in that stuff. And I think, honestly, that might be a good thing. I think that means that maybe people will go out to see more original projects. It was kind of like there's this hopeful feeling about stuff like Oppenheimer and Barbie doing so well. I know Anyone But You got bad reviews, but there's something interesting about, like, an old school, like, 90s style rom-com making $200 million in theaters.
Yeah,
and so
it's just a step in the right direction.
And maybe Anyone But You is bad, but maybe Sony and other studios start funding rom-coms from writers that are actually that can pump out good stories.
Yeah.
And so the hope is that we get other kind of stuff, because I'm not against the superhero movies. I love them. You and I were there for the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
But I think...
And we had fun with Megamind, too.
Yes, of course. I think the problem became is that when the only big budget movies that people would, like, put their hard-earned money to go out and see, and that Hollywood would make, is the MCU movies.
Yeah.
And so now it's exciting, not just because I want superhero movies to fail. I don't.
Yeah.
It's exciting because we get original stuff now.
The Red Seas are parting for smaller projects to come out and have their time to shine.
And big,
and huge projects. You're right. And even middle projects.
I'm talking about mid-budget projects. Like, I think we lost the $50 million movie. We lost that. Every movie either has to cost like $200 million or $6 million.
It's either A24 or Disney, basically.
And yeah, so I don't know. It's exciting. I think there's some superhero stuff that I'm still like probably gonna go see. Like I'll probably go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I'll go see it too.
Yeah, I mean that feels like the event. But I kind of hope we're back to just one or two those movies a year. Mm-hmm. Like Deadpool and Wolverine is the only superhero movie coming out this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The only MCU project, I think. I
think we're getting Joker too this year.
We're getting Joker. But like when it comes to MCU, that's the only one. And I'm like, if we go back to just one or two of those a year, I like that more.
That'd be real nice.
I don't need 3 movies and 4 TV shows.
Yeah. Fair enough. So to wrap it up, lead it back to Megamind, I do like that this one's kind of nicely contained as like one singular movie that wasn't exploded into a franchise, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Like, I think I understand people's love for this and wanting a sequel and wanting like a properly done sequel, but also we have this. It's like an hour and a half movie and it's kind of great. Yeah. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think joy is like the headline. It's such like it's a breeze of a movie and it gives you a smile at the end, you know?
Yeah, it has a good heart to it too.
We recorded like the podcast on Holes, the movie, which is like that same feeling it gave both of us of just like, oh, well, that's just a nice movie.
Yeah.
And I just today was a good shoot day because we shot the Holes podcast and we watched Megamind. I watched Megamind for the first time, and I was like, oh, what a breeze.
Yeah. So I think I'm good to wrap up if you are.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, check out our other podcasts.
Yes.
By now, our Big Lebowski podcast should be out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's coming out next weekend, so at the time of shooting now.
For sure. Go check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, stay nice, dudes.